History is filled with stories that were almost erased, tales of power, defiance, and forgotten heroes. But what happens when the victors erase the stories of those who don't fit their narrative? Here, we bring them back to life. Welcome to Unveiling Hidden Past, where we uncover the stories that almost disappeared from history. Today, we sail into the turbulent waters of ancient warfare. We dive into the life of one of history's most extraordinary women, a woman whose brilliance and bravery were overshadowed by the sands of time. This is a story where one woman, a warrior queen, led men into battle, stood before emperors, and fought in one of the most legendary naval battles in history. This is the story of Artemisia I of Caria, the fearless female naval commander of the Persian Empire who defied expectations and left even the Persian King Xerxes in awe. Let's unveil the past and tell the stories that almost disappeared. To understand Artemisia, we must first step into the world she was born into, a world defined by war, ambition, and the clash of two of history's greatest civilizations. It was the 5th century BCE, an era of empire building and rebellion, where the balance of power in the ancient world teetered on the edge of destruction. At the heart of this global conflict stood the Achaemenid Persian Empire, the largest and most powerful dominion the world had ever seen. Spanning 3 continents, Persia stretched from the Indus Valley in the east to the shores of Egypt in the west, from the icy lands of Central Asia to the warm waters of the Mediterranean. It was an empire forged in conquest, but maintained through the assimilation of diverse cultures, religions, and customs. But even the greatest of empires had enemies, and for Persia, there was no enemy greater than Greece. The Greeks, though divided into dozens of city-states, shared a common belief: they would never bow to a foreign king. Unlike the centralized Persian Empire, the Greek world was a collection of fiercely independent polis, each with its own government, army, and ambitions. Yet, when threatened by Persian expansion, they found unity in defiance. This defiance had already cost Persia dearly. A decade earlier, in 490 BCE, the Persian army had attempted to crush Greek resistance at the Battle of Marathon. But against all odds, the vastly outnumbered Greeks defeated the Persian forces, halting the empire's advance into Europe. Now, 10 years later, King Xerxes I, son of the legendary Darius the Great, was determined to finish what his father had started. This time, he would not send a single army or a limited fleet. He would mobilize the full force of the Persian Empire, a war machine so massive, so unstoppable, that Greece would finally bow before him. Among the brilliant military minds he called upon, his generals, satraps, and admirals, was one unlikely figure: a woman. Her name was Artemisia I of Caria, and she was about to change history forever. While Persia and Greece prepared for war, a different kind of battle had already taken place in Caria, a strategically positioned region along the Aegean coast. Caria was unique. Though part of the Persian Empire, it retained much of its Greek heritage, blending Hellenic culture with Persian governance. It was a land of skilled sailors and warriors, a place where power was measured not just by military might, but by one's ability to navigate the complex web of politics and trade. This was the world Artemisia was born into. Her father, Ligdamis I, was a shrewd and calculating ruler who understood the delicate balance of loyalty and ambition within the Persian Empire. He ensured that his daughter received an education unusual for women of her time, not just in diplomacy and governance, but also in military strategy and warfare. From a young age, Artemisia was trained to understand naval tactics, combat, and the politics of empire. She was taught that power was not merely inherited, it was seized, defended, and wielded with intelligence. Most women of her era were expected to remain in the shadows, fulfilling traditional roles in the household and court. But Artemisia was never meant to be ordinary. Her first test of power came when her husband, the king of Halicarnassus, died. Many expected her to step aside, allowing male relatives or Persian governors to take control. Instead, she seized the throne herself. Where other widowed queens retreated into the background, Artemisia stepped forward with confidence. She fortified Halicarnassus, strengthened its navy, expanded its fleet, and positioned herself as a key ally of Persia. Her rule was not just a political statement, it was a declaration of her own power and independence. By the time Xerxes prepared his invasion of Greece, Artemisia was no longer just a queen. She was a commander, a strategist, and a force to be reckoned with. And when Persia called upon its allies to supply ships and warriors, Artemisia did not just send her fleet, she led it herself. Artemisia's early years as queen were marked by both challenges and triumphs. She faced opposition from those who doubted her ability to lead, but she quickly proved them wrong. Her understanding of naval warfare was unparalleled, and she personally oversaw the construction of her fleet. One of her most significant achievements was her ability to balance diplomacy with military strategy. She maintained a strong alliance with Xerxes while also ensuring that Caria retained a degree of autonomy. This delicate balancing act earned her the respect of both her allies and her enemies. Artemisia's reputation as a skilled commander grew, and when Xerxes began planning his invasion of Greece, he knew he needed her by his side. She was one of the few leaders he trusted implicitly, and her presence in his fleet was a testament to her capabilities. The Greco-Persian Wars were a series of conflicts that pitted the Persian Empire against the Greek city-states. The Persians, with their vast resources and manpower, seemed unstoppable. But the Greeks, though outnumbered, were fiercely determined to defend their homeland. Xerxes' invasion of Greece was one of the largest military campaigns in ancient history. He assembled a massive army and a formidable navy, with ships from across the empire. Artemisia's fleet was among the most impressive, and she played a crucial role in the planning of the campaign. The Battle of Salamis was a pivotal moment in the war. The Greeks, led by the Athenian general Themistocles, lured the Persian fleet into the narrow straits of Salamis. The confined space neutralized the Persians' numerical advantage, and chaos ensued as their ships collided with each other. Amidst the chaos, Artemisia's brilliance shone through. She commanded her ships with precision, maneuvering them through the narrow straits and avoiding the traps set by the Greeks. Her actions during the battle were so impressive that even Xerxes, watching from afar, was in awe. The Greco-Persian Wars were not just a clash of armies, they were a clash of civilizations. On one side stood the Persian Empire, a vast and powerful dominion that stretched from the Indus River to the Aegean Sea. On the other side were the Greek city-states, small but fiercely independent, united by a shared language, culture, and determination to defend their freedom. The roots of the conflict lay in the Ionian Revolt, a rebellion of Greek cities in Asia Minor against Persian rule. The revolt was crushed, but it sparked a series of wars that would last for decades. The Persian kings Darius I and later his son Xerxes I were determined to punish the Greeks for their defiance and to bring them under Persian control. Xerxes' invasion of Greece in 480 BCE was one of the most ambitious military campaigns in ancient history. He assembled an army of hundreds of thousands of soldiers and a navy of over 1,000 ships. The Persian fleet was a formidable force, drawing ships and crews from across the empire, including Egypt, Phoenicia, and Caria. Artemisia, as the ruler of Caria, was expected to contribute to the Persian war effort. But she didn't just send ships and soldiers, she personally led her fleet into battle. This was highly unusual for a woman in the ancient world, but Artemisia was no ordinary woman. She was a skilled commander, a shrewd strategist, and a fearless leader. As the Persian fleet sailed toward Greece, Artemisia's role became increasingly important. She advised Xerxes on naval strategy and helped plan the invasion. Her knowledge of the Aegean Sea and its currents was invaluable, and her ships were among the best in the Persian fleet. But the Greeks were not to be underestimated. Led by the Athenian general Themistocles, they had prepared for the Persian invasion by building a powerful navy and fortifying key positions. They knew they couldn't match the Persians in numbers, so they relied on strategy, cunning, and their knowledge of the terrain. The stage was set for one of the most dramatic battles in ancient history, the Battle of Salamis. The Greeks lured the Persian fleet into the narrow straits between the island of Salamis and the mainland, where their larger ships would be at a disadvantage. The Persians, confident in their superior numbers, took the bait. As the two fleets clashed, chaos erupted. The narrow straits made it difficult for the Persian ships to maneuver, and they began to collide with each other. The Greeks, with their smaller, more agile ships, took full advantage of the confusion. Amidst the chaos, Artemisia's fleet stood out. She commanded her ships with precision and skill, maneuvering them through the narrow straits and avoiding the traps set by the Greeks. At one point, she found herself pursued by a Greek ship. Realizing that escape was impossible, she made a bold decision. She rammed and sank an allied ship, creating a diversion that allowed her to escape. When Xerxes, watching from a nearby hill, saw what Artemisia had done, he was reportedly impressed. "My men have become women," he said, "and my women have become men." This statement, though rooted in the gender norms of the time, underscores the respect he had for Artemisia's abilities. The Battle of Salamis was a turning point in the Greco-Persian Wars. The Persian fleet suffered heavy losses, and Xerxes was forced to retreat. The Greeks had won a decisive victory, thanks in no small part to the leadership of Themistocles and the mistakes of the Persian commanders. But Artemisia's role in the battle was not forgotten. Her bravery, skill, and cunning had earned her the admiration of Xerxes and the respect of her allies. She had proven that a woman could not only lead in a man's world, but could excel in it. The Battle of Salamis ended in a decisive Greek victory. The Persian fleet, once thought invincible, was decimated. Xerxes, realizing the gravity of the defeat, ordered a retreat. The Greeks had not only defended their homeland, but had also dealt a crushing blow to the Persian Empire's ambitions in the west. For Artemisia, the battle was a defining moment. She had proven herself not just as a leader, but as a master strategist. Her actions during the battle earned her the admiration of Xerxes and the respect of her allies. But more importantly, they cemented her place in history as one of the most remarkable military commanders of her time. Yet, Artemisia's story doesn't end here. In the aftermath of the battle, she continued to play a crucial role in Persian politics and strategy. Her legacy, though often overlooked, is a testament to the power of intelligence, courage, and determination, qualities that transcend gender and time. The Battle of Salamis was a turning point in the Greco-Persian Wars, but for Artemisia, it was only the beginning of her influence. In the aftermath of the battle, her reputation as a skilled commander and strategist reached new heights. Xerxes, who had witnessed her brilliance firsthand, held her in the highest regard. He trusted her not only as a military leader, but also as a political advisor. After the Persian retreat, Xerxes faced a crisis of confidence. His once mighty fleet was in ruins, and his army was demoralized. He needed counsel, and he turned to Artemisia. According to historical accounts, she advised him to return to Persia and focus on consolidating his empire rather than pursuing further campaigns in Greece. Xerxes, recognizing the wisdom in her words, followed her advice. He left his general Mardonius in charge of the remaining forces and returned to his capital, Persepolis. Artemisia's role in the Persian court grew even more significant after the war. Xerxes entrusted her with the care and education of his sons, a responsibility typically reserved for the most trusted and respected members of the court. This was a rare honor, especially for a woman, and it underscored the deep respect Xerxes had for Artemisia's intellect and loyalty. But Artemisia's story doesn't end with her political influence. She continued to rule Caria with wisdom and strength, ensuring its prosperity and security. Her legacy as a leader who defied gender norms and excelled in a male-dominated world was firmly established. Yet, despite her achievements, Artemisia's story was gradually erased from history. The Greeks, who wrote most of the surviving accounts of the Greco-Persian Wars, had little interest in celebrating a Persian ally, especially a woman. They downplayed her role, portraying her as an anomaly rather than a brilliant leader in her own right. The historian Herodotus, one of the primary sources for this period, did include Artemisia in his writings, but his account is tinged with bias. He marveled at her bravery and intelligence, but also framed her as an exception to the rule, a woman who succeeded in a man's world rather than a trailblazer who challenged the very notion of gender roles. Over time, Artemisia's story faded into obscurity. The Persian Empire fell, and with it, the records of its heroes and leaders were lost or destroyed. The Greeks, who emerged victorious, shaped the narrative of the Greco-Persian Wars to glorify their own achievements and downplay those of their enemies. But Artemisia's legacy endures. Her story is a reminder that history is not always written by the victors. It is also written by those who seek to erase the stories of those who don't fit their narrative. By remembering Artemisia, We honor not just her, but all the women whose contributions have been overlooked, forgotten, or deliberately erased. In the modern era, historians and scholars have begun to rediscover Artemisia's story. Through careful analysis of ancient texts and archaeological evidence, they are piecing together the life of a woman who defied expectations and changed the course of history. Her legacy is a testament to the power of resilience, intelligence, and courage, qualities that transcend gender and time. But Artemisia's story is not just about her individual accomplishments. It's about the countless women throughout history whose stories have been erased, forgotten, or ignored. Women who, like Artemisia, defied societal norms and made significant contributions to their communities, only to be written out of the historical record. The erasure of women like Artemisia is not an accident. It is the result of a historical narrative that has been shaped by those in power, a narrative that has often marginalized or excluded women. By rediscovering and celebrating the stories of women like Artemisia, we challenge this narrative and reclaim the rightful place of women in history. Today, Artemisia's story resonates more than ever. As we continue to fight for gender equality and representation, her life serves as an inspiration. She shows us that it is possible to break barriers, challenge norms, and achieve greatness, no matter the obstacles. But Artemisia's story is not just for women. It is for everyone who believes in the power of resilience, intelligence, and courage. It is for everyone who understands that history is richer and more complete when it includes the voices and experiences of all people, regardless of gender. Artemisia I of Caria was a naval commander, a trailblazer, a strategist, and a leader. But above all, she was a woman who refused to be defined by the limitations of her time. Her story is a testament to the power of perseverance, the importance of representation, and the enduring impact of those who dare to defy expectations. Her story deserves to be told and remembered. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's bring these erased women of history back into the spotlight. Who should we cover next? Let me know in the comments below. Until next time, keep exploring the hidden stories of our past.